Good morning, everyone. Here we are on Friday, our first Friday in December. It's almost Christmas. Well, to celebrate that it is the first Friday, we have a vocab quiz to do today. Sorry to burst your bubble there on thinking it was going to be an easy day, although it is still kind of an easy day. So it's a 5.1 vocab quiz, and we got these terms before we went on Thanksgiving break. We got them on, November 20th, and that was a Friday. It was about 2 weeks ago. You should have been reviewing these. You do have, I believe, 2 attempts to take this test. So I'll click on this first. It does say you have 2 attempts to take it. When you try your second attempt, all of your original answers will be erased, and the words are grouped into smaller sections for you. Now you can try to write them down if you want to, your answers, but the way the vocab quiz is set up, it's not going to tell you specifics. So let me see here if I can get into a preview. So here's question 1. So if you miss, 2 of these words, it's just going to tell you that question 1 is incorrect. It's not going to tell you specifically which ones you missed. But I did group them. They are in groups of 4. The last one is a group of 3. And you're just matching the term to the definition. Now, getting into our actual assignment for today, we're just moving on to the next set of vocab terms. So I'm going to go over the chapter 5, section 2 vocab, and you will be writing those terms down and their definitions, and you're going to turn them in right here. It goes towards your notebook check, and we have quite a bit of points going into this notebook check so far for the 9 weeks. And I believe we're about halfway. No, we're not even. We're almost halfway through. We have about another week. Yeah, we have 1 more week before we're halfway through the 9 weeks. So here's the PDF document, and then you can either copy and paste it into a text box, or you can upload those terms from a Google Doc. So let me go over those terms with you now. There's not too many of them, and we're not going to be having our own vocab quiz on these. It's going to be part of your Chapter 5 test. And right now, that test is scheduled for December 15th. I wanted to get it in before we go on Christmas break. And we're not going to do anything new after that. We'll just do some review stuff of things you should have done last year but might not have due to the pandemic. So Chapter 5, Section 2 vocab is all about active transport. Active transport is just the opposite of passive transport. It's going to require energy to move materials into or out of the cell. Let me hide this little guy. So you can see there's ATP coming in, and he is zapping this protein or this channel protein, and he's giving it energy. And they're actually pushing things against the concentration gradient. So if you look at these little green dots here, there's way more of them inside the cell than there is out of the cell. That's why we need to use energy in order to push more in. Sodium-potassium pump. It's a carrier protein that uses ATP to move sodium ions out of the cell and potassium ions into the cell. Your cell doesn't really like salt, but it does like potassium. So here's what it looks like. And it's moving them in a 3:2 ratio. So Na is going to be sodium. ATP is going to come into this protein as well. It's going to take sodium. It's going to push the sodium out. So you can see the sodium moving through the protein pump. And this little K stands for potassium. And there's 2 spots open here. So the potassium is going to come into the cell. And after you use ATP, adenosine triphosphate, you remove one of the phosphates, it becomes ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate. So we're changing the prefix there from tri to di, which means we have 2 phosphates left over. And those potassiums are going to come in, sodiums go out, and it just continuously works around like that. Potassium comes in, sodium goes out. Endocytosis is a cell ingesting or bringing in external fluids, macromolecules, large particles, or other cells, and it does this by using a vesicle, which we talked about in Chapter 4. A vesicle is just a little transport carrier, or transport helper. It's part of your cell membrane, and it pinches off around it. So it says, oh, I want these particles inside of me. and it's going to pinch inward until it completely encloses them, and then that vesicle will move on into the cell, and it is just the cell membrane. A vesicle is a pouch that pinches off from the cell membrane and becomes a membrane-bound organelle to move materials into or out of the cell. Now, because it is a part of the cell membrane, it is actually going to just reform with the cell membrane after it's done doing its job of bringing something into or out of the cell. Pinocytosis is called cell drinking. So it's ingesting some type of liquid or small molecules. And I'll give you a little hint to remember this one, but don't tell the adults in your life. Pinot is a type of wine. They call it Pinot Grigio, so that might be a way to help you remember it. I'm not suggesting that you go drink wine or any other type of alcoholic beverage, just simply trying to give you something to remember. Pinocytosis means that you're drinking. Phagocytosis is when the cell engulfs large particles or whole cells. It's another way of saying that the cell is eating something. So here we have this bacteria. Your white blood cells actually do a lot of phagocytosis. That's how they get rid of the bacteria cells, your white blood cells. Yeah. So the bacteria is going to come up to this cell here. The cell is going to absorb it, and then it is going to digest it and spit it out. A phagocyte is a cell that ingests and destroys foreign matter. Here you can see the phagocyte. This is your white blood cell, and it has this little foot, and it's going to come out there and it's going to attack things. So here it's attacking a yeast cell. Now, yeast isn't normally something that's going to harm you, but it's in your body, and your body doesn't know what it is. So it's foreign. It's foreign matter. Exocytosis is a substance being released from a vesicle. So here it's just the opposite of endocytosis. We have our vesicle. It's going to be moving up towards the cell membrane. You can see how it's starting to become part of the cell membrane, and it just pops open and it pushes all those things out of the cell. And that is it as far as new terms. I told you there wasn't very many. This is that little review game. It's posted in Canvas for you. I'm not going to go through and play it, but you can definitely do it on your own to help you review for the chapter test. Alrighty guys, that is it for today. Now if we go back to your Canvas, make sure you turn in your vocab words where it says Chapter 5.2 Vocab Video and Turn In. Make sure you turn them in down here, okay? Alright guys, have a good one.